Hi everyone, a travel addict guy here. I've got some breaking news on the health crisis here in Spain. Andalusia from Friday, April 15th, have a total of 98 municipalities with perimeter lockdowns, and 33 of them will also face a suspension of all non-essential activity for exceeding the rate of 500 and 1,000 cases of C19 virus per 100,000 inhabitants respectively in the last 14 days. This represents an increase of 12 municipalities with restrictions compared to the previous week. The 98 towns with a perimeter closure for registering a cumulative incidence rate higher than 500 cases per 100,000 inhabitants in the last 2 weeks are distributed throughout the 8 provinces. Granada registers 35, Jaén with 19, Seville with 14, Almería, Cordoba and Huelva 7 each, Cádiz 6, and Málaga 3. Municipalities with border lockdowns and the suspension of a non-essential activity. All provinces except Almería register towns with the suspension of all non-essential activity for exceeding 1,000 infections per 100,000 residents in the last 14 days, led by Granada with 12, followed by Jaén with 10, Cádiz with 4, Seville with 3, Cordoba with 2, and Huelva and Málaga with 1 each. Specifically in Granada province, they are Albuñuelas, Campo Tejar, Castril, Colemera, Darro, Escúzar, Ilora, Montejicar, Niguelas, Orce, El Valle, and Zagra. And 10 in high-end provinces are Arquillos, Valles de Segura, Bedmar Garcias, Campillo de Arenas, Castellar, Castillo de Locubin, Frailes, Noalejo, Valdepeñas de Jaén, and Santiago Pontones. The 4 in Cádiz province are Alcalá del Valle, El Bosque, Puerto Serrano, and Ubrique. The 3 in Seville province, Los Corrales, Martín de la Jara, and El Palmar de Troya. The 2 in Cordoba province are Benamejí and Palenciana. The 1 in Huelva province, San Bartolomé de la Torre, and the 1 in Málaga province is Almargan. So you can see a lot of new rules coming and a lot of new restrictions. There's another list there. I'm not going to go through it, but you can see that more perimeter lockdowns are in effect now, and that is going to prohibit travel in Andalusia even more. We are supposed to reopen on May the 9th. That is when the state of alarm is supposed to end, but we will see what happens. The tourism sector is enormously disappointed at a new EU coronavirus health passport plans. Well, you think so? I would have never guessed that. An industry chief described the changes of policy in Brussels as absolutely incomprehensible and damaging for the Spanish tourism sector. There has been a new setback as the high summer season for tourism in Spain approaches. Mobility inside of Europe. The objective of the European health passport to guarantee travel within the EU this summer to regain confidence and boost the recovery of tourism has been diluted by introducing changes that leave the decision on pandemic restrictions in the hands of each country. Despite the existence of this document, Spain's Mesa de Turismo, a group of tourism firms and professionals, said it was enormously disappointed that Brussels has accepted a restricted vaccination passport. The change of policy in Brussels is absolutely incomprehensible and damaging for the Spanish tourism sector, which was confident that the provision of a health passport that would facilitate the travel of citizens within the borders of the EU, said the president of the group, Juan Molas. Looks like those vaccine passports are coming, and they are coming to Europe, and they are coming soon. So you are going to have trouble traveling around Europe in the future looks like without the vaccination passport, and that could be quite an issue for some of the people that do not want to receive the vaccine. We're going to see how that goes. Spain reports 9,663 new infections, but fourth wave is progressing slower than the previous three. According to the health ministry, 8,631,548 people have now received at least one dose of a C-19 vaccine, which is 18.2% of the population. So still a very low percent of the population has been vaccinated here in Spain. The Spanish Health Ministry registered a further 9,663 infections in its daily report on the pandemic yesterday, with the 14-day cumulative number of coronavirus cases per 100,000 inhabitants more or less holding steady. The latter data point came in at 201 on Wednesday, and in Thursday's report only rose to 202. The increasing pace of Spain's vaccination program is seeing this fourth wave of the epidemic in the country go slower than the previous ones. So that is good news, at least. A little bit of slowing. People are starting to get vaccinated, but it's still very, very slow here in Spain. So I've talked about some desperate times here in Spain, but this one is really bad, guys. Spanish police rescue 12-year-old girl sold by her parents. 3 people have been arrested after a month-long investigation that led officers from Cordoba in southern Spain to the northwestern city of A Coruña. The Spanish National Police on Wednesday rescued a 12-year-old girl in the northwestern city of A Coruña who had allegedly been sold by her parents to another family. Wow, that really takes the cake there. And I've talked about these crises and money problems in Spain, but to sell your children, that is not the way to go. The financial exchange took place in Cordoba in southern Spain, and the child was then taken to the region of Galicia, where the police located her after a 1-month search. 3 Romanian nationals, a couple and another relative, were arrested during the raid on a home on De La Torre Street in the Monte Alto neighborhood of A Coruña, said sources familiar with the police operation. So it was not Spanish people, it was Romanians living here in Spain. The investigation began in early March when the school in Cordoba that the child had been attending contacted the family to inquire about her days-long absence. Thank you so much to that school for interacting. Her parents failed to provide a convincing explanation, and teachers reported the absence to education authorities and to the police, said the same sources. A court in Cordoba is now in charge of the case. According to several sources, the child was sold for around 4,000 euros by her own parents. Wow, that is a shame there. Here is some news about the economic stimulus going on now in Spain. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez says 140 billion euros in EU funds will deliver greatest economic transformation since the 1980s. Pedro Sanchez has unveiled the guidelines of a spending plan meant to pull the country out of the crisis caused by the pandemic and help effect structural reforms. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez on Tuesday offered some insight into the way that 140 billion in European recovery funds will be spent in the coming years. The leader of the Socialist Party, PSOE, guaranteed that the biggest public investment plan in recent history will modernize the Spanish economy more intensely than at any other time since the country joined the European Union in 1986, alluding to a transformational moment for a nation that was then emerging from 40 years of dictatorship and isolationist policies. The plan is the greatest opportunity for Spain since its admission into the EU, said the Prime Minister, in lofty tones meant to underscore the relevance of a project that he sees as a signature issue of his administration. He says, quote, "The pandemic will give way to a new period in our history. Around half of the amount, or 72 billion euros, will take the form of grants, while the rest will be paid out in loans. By comparison, in the 1980s, Spain received 8 billion in European cohesion funds, While Sanchez did not go into too much detail, the plan is not the final one that will be sent to Brussels, which has given member states an April 30th deadline. He unveiled its main guidelines over the next 6 years. He said Spain will undertake 102 reforms and 110 substantial investment projects. Besides all the major reforms negotiated with the EU on labor, pensions, taxes, public administration, health, education, the justice system, the caregiving economy, and water legislation, Sanchez said there will be investment worth 70 billion that will have an immediate impact on jobs this year. Wow, so it looks like a very ambitious plan they are going to try to roll out here in Spain, and maybe overly ambitious. That could be actually overly ambitious right now. So I hope that that money gets out and those funds get out to those that need it. So that is the latest news here from Spain and from Andalusia in particular. So I'm reporting live here from Malaga. You can see it's a Sunday and there are a lot of people out enjoying the day. We've had some nice weather over the weekend. So that is the latest news. Thank you for joining me today. We'll see you in the next video. Travel Addict Guy. Take care, everyone.